as Iranians make up their minds about who to vote for or if they will vote at all, many are already saying that this ballot is, of course, potentially a foregone conclusion.
Well, I think the best way to put it is that this is a managed election. There are 4 candidates who remain. 3 of them are effectively hardliners. To give you an idea of perspective, the Guardian Council, which is appointed by the Supreme Judiciary, disqualified all but 7 of 592 applicants, including they disqualified a first vice president, a former parliament speaker, Ali Larijani, and a former president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Of the 7 candidates that went forward, 3 of them dropped out to back their individual candidates. It comes down to the hardline cleric, Ebrahim Raisi, backed by the Supreme Leader's office. So his chief opponent, the centrist former bank governor, Abdel Nasser Hamadi, I think he has very little chance. So I suspect that Raisi will win a first-round victory of more than 50% of those who do vote. But as you note, will he have legitimacy if that turnout is very low because people think it really doesn't matter if I vote or not because the conclusion is foregone?
Now, if, as you suggest, this hardliner Ebrahim Raisi wins, what will his presidency look like, do you think?
To be honest with you, it will look like what the Supreme Leader wants it to look like. We know that Iran is facing serious economic challenges. In part, these are because of the U.S. sanctions, which are on the country over its nuclear program. But in large part, this is because of long-standing internal problems, claims of corruption, claims of serious difficulties in the bank sector, claims of production problems. Raisi has not put forth any economic policies to deal with this, to really establish what he would do. And I think, of course, beyond the economic issues, where we're sort of in the void, we don't know what the outcome of the nuclear talks in Vienna are going to be about a renewal of the nuclear deal between Iran, the U.S., and other powers. And we don't know if American sanctions will be lifted. So I think this is very much a Supreme Leader's person in place, as effectively that office consolidates control of Iran in very uncertain times.
Now, if turnout ends up being as low as 41%, as many official opinion polls predict, can then officials really and truly come out and say that this ballot tomorrow has been free and fair?
Oh, I think they can say it has been free and fair. I think they are not going to stop people from going to the polls. They, of course, are going to encourage it. Whether it's free and fair because the candidates have been so carefully selected, as it were, to be presented, we can debate. But I think your bigger question is this. If the turnout is 41%, that will be the lowest turnout in the history of the Islamic Republic for any national election. Now, the Supreme Leader will still say that this is a triumph for Iran against its enemies, that this is a triumph against American pressure, that the Islamic Republic is an example for the world. But will people outside of Iran see that as legitimate? And more importantly, will Iranians themselves, who are suffering an economic crisis, who are suffering with little hope that that crisis will lift in the near future, will they see that election as being legitimate if, in fact, less than half of the country has come out to, well, let's be honest, rubber stamp it, taken by the 12 men of the Guardian Council?
Now, turnout has dwindled in previous Iranian elections, and apart from the issues being raised at this ballot, there is clearly something that runs deeper, that goes wrong with the electoral system and with the link between the average Iranian person on the street and the political class and politicians.
Friends of mine have said for a long time they believe in the principles of the 1970 revolution, but they don't see that revolution being implemented. And it's not just the economic problems, it's not just the social issues now. Remember that in 2009, in an election was decided by the Supreme Leader against basically the person who won or who led, Mir Hosseini, that more than 1 million people turned out on the streets of Iran to say this is not heard. And those protests, which lasted for many months, were suppressed. Not only that, but the man who led that vote, or probably led that vote, was put under house arrest in February 2011, and he is still under house arrest. Many other leading politicians house arrest, or they are not allowed to have their names mentioned in the Iranian press, like the former President Mohammad Khatami. So a lot of us look at this and say, what does it matter what I think? What does it matter? Because I'm not actually really able to get a participation in the system that will recognize my decision if it goes the wrong way against the elite at the top.
Okay, Scott Lucas in Birmingham in the UK, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for being with us here on France 24.